Hi, this is Raina from Mount Lebanon, Raina's to Go, where we're going to teach you another wonderful cooking class today. And today we're going to teach you, actually in one recipe, 2 new procedures. One is a different twist on lasagna. Now I'm sure all of you have made lasagna, and everyone has their own wonderful special recipe. Far be it from me to try to change your recipe, but you might want to add this one to your repertoire. The neat thing about this one is that in addition to making your own homemade noodles, you don't have to boil the noodle before you use it in the lasagna. That's what makes it so special. So I'm going to teach you today how to make first the noodle and roll it out in a very inexpensive pasta machine that I know you're all going to run out and buy after today's class. And then I'm going to teach you how to incorporate it into a lasagna that it has in it smoked ham and chopped spinach. It's got wonderful cheeses, a trio of them, ricotta, mozzarella, and Parmesan. And you're going to layer these wonderful noodles that you're going to make yourself with a tomato sauce that we're going to show you how to make very quickly and out of the can with the pasta noodles and the ham and the spinach and all the cheeses. And the end result is going to be absolutely magnifico. And for a Greek girl, that's not a bad way to go. So let's start making in the food processor. I'm using a very large Cuisinart, 4 cups of all-purpose flour with the steel blade. And I want you to go ahead and put that in there along with 4 whole eggs and a teaspoon of an extra virgin olive oil and another teaspoon of salt. Put the Cuisinart lid on, turn it on, and let it process until it gets to be like a coarse, grainy meal, much like cornmeal would look. I'm going to stop it right now because I want you to see through our mirror exactly what it is you want this to look like. Cornmeal is the best description I can use. So once you've gotten it back to that point, I want you to put the lid on, and through the feed tube, you're going to be adding 1/4 to 1/2 cup of warm water. Now remember, I want this to be warm, not hot, not cold, just tepid. The reason is it'll help bind this into a dough much faster. Turn the machine onto the on position and start adding that water very slowly. Once you've added about 1/4 cup, I want you to stop your machine and look at your dough and pick it up. And as you can see, it's just now starting to come together, but it's still a little dry. And when it's too dry, it won't roll out. So in all probability, I'm going to have to add the rest of this warm water, keeping in mind that if I add too much, that means I have to start adding flour back into it. It's not a tragedy, but it's not something that I'd want to do. So I want you to be careful and never add too much water unless you have to be prepared then to start adding more flour, which could make your dough just a slight bit tough. Turn the machine back on and go ahead and add the rest of that 1/2 cup. Hopefully and ultimately, what this will do is create an actual ball of dough in the machine. And it's going to take about a full minute, but it'll start adhering to each other and gathering and going around little by little into a nice ball. You just give it another second and have the patience to do that. You're going to see what's going to happen here. All right, it's starting to come together, gang. Be patient. And there it goes. You can already hear and even see the difference that it's all coming to one side of our food processor bowl. Oh, great. It's going to come around. And there there it goes. Alrighty, let's take it out and take a look at it. Nothing like that grainy mixture we were looking at before, but rather a nice pliable and smooth dough. Take out the blade and gather up the rest of the dough by hand and put it on the counter. And we're going to just take the machine and put it aside for now because we don't use it. Get that blade out of the way. And as you can see, this dough is exactly perfect, right to the point where we wanted it from the beginning. And what we're going to do, we're going to cut it in fours. And then we're going to roll it through our pasta machine to make our lasagna noodle. But before we do that, we're going to let it rest while I show you the rest of the ingredients that go into our lasagna. Keep it covered with saran wrap while you're letting it rest. What I have here is 2 pounds of smoked ham that's been sliced very thin. And I have about a cup of Parmesan cheese. And I have here 4 packages of frozen spinach. Each package is 10 ounces, which I've gone ahead and bought the already chopped frozen spinach. And what you'll do with that is you'll take it and you'll thaw it, and you'll drain it dry, squeezing it, all the liquid as much as you physically can out of the spinach itself so that you have a fairly dry mixture because you don't want to add any more liquid to the lasagna. And it gets into a nice ball about so, and we have that ready. And we have lots and lots of mozzarella cheese, and we have our ricotta cheese, and we have our sauce. And I'll give you exact amounts on this in just a minute because I want to get the sauce started first. If you'd like, you can make your own tomato sauce, or you can get a real good quality of a canned sauce. 8 cups is what you're going to need for this recipe, and you want to season it with a little bit of salt, pepper, and fresh basil. Now, you may already have your own favorite sauce that you'd like to use, and that'd be just fine. But whatever it is, just make sure you have about 8 cups of it. And you want to just get it all incorporated, all the seasonings. Some garlic might help too if you'd like. And I always add just a little bit of touch of sugar to my tomato sauce, and I went ahead and did that when I first got it together. Sugar always helps cut the acidity in the tomato sauce. So maybe you're looking at about a tablespoon for these 8 cups. You don't want it to taste sweet. You simply want to bring out as much of that tomato flavor as possible. So now I have my sauce all ready, and I can turn off my fire. And here I have, ready to go, 3 pounds of ricotta cheese. And in here I put in some chopped parsley, some basil, and some oregano. And I've got along with that 2 whole eggs. And I put a little bit of salt and pepper. And the nutmeg that I put in is just a touch, but it's a good touch to add to your ricotta. I have 3 pounds of grated mozzarella, and I've got this about 1.5 cups of fresh grated Parmesan cheese. And if you want, you can use Romano or you can use Asiago, which you can get down in our Strip District downtown, which is a fun place to go visit. So now I have all my ingredients ready, and you're probably wondering, what am I going to do with this ball of dough? Well, gang, we're going to roll it out together. But in order to do that, we have to get it all assembled on our cart, and we have to get it all set and ready to go, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's going to take 5 minutes, and you're never going to go out and buy that packaged dough stuff again, ever. I guarantee you, you're going to make your own pasta every time. All right, gang, what we have here is an old-fashioned hand-cranked pasta machine, which is not a very expensive investment for you to make. And you can get these down in the Strip at some of those wonderful old shops that have all those good things. And that's where you can get all your good cheeses for this product too. So you might want to look into it. And it's a hand-cranked model. It's the least expensive one you can buy. And I want you to know, I think it works better than any of those real high-powered, fancy, expensive models they have on the market. What I've gone ahead and done is I cut my dough into 4, like I told you I was going to do at the beginning. And I, with a rolling pin and a little bit of flour, flattened it just a little bit so that we can begin feeding it through the machine on its widest setting. And what we're going to do is we're going to hand crank it right through, and you know what this does? This kneads the pasta dough. And in kneading it through the machine, it saves you from having to do it on the counter with a rolling pin, and that's no fun at all. So what we've done is we've taken it through its first feeding through the machine, or kneading if you will. I want you to skip a notch and go to the 3rd notch on the machine, and I want you to knead it through again. This too not only makes the dough longer and thinner, which is ultimately what we want, but it also makes the dough more pliable. It kneads it again. I want you to skip another notch and go to the 5th one on the machine, and I want you to do it again. And as you can see, the more we roll it or knead it through, the easier it becomes. And you're going to do this with all 4 pieces of that dough. Now I want you to go to right the very next one, which should be the next to the last one on the machine. And this is our final rolling process. And as you can see, this dough really grew from the first piece that I showed you. And it's getting to be absolutely the right consistency for your lasagna. If you decide to become real adventurous, and we haven't taught another pasta class before that point in time, you can take this piece of dough, and there's an attachment that comes with this machine, and you can put it on, and you can cut this dough right the way it is into fettuccine noodles. And you can hang them up to dry on the edge of a chair or on a pasta drying rack, and when they're good and dry, go ahead and put them in a plastic bag, tie them securely, put them in the freezer, and you'll have fettuccine whenever you're ready. But today, instead of doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to cut this to fit the pan, and we're going to make our lasagna. Now that we've gone ahead and we've rolled out all of our pasta dough to the exact consistency where we want it, I want you to see how long it got. Obviously, way too long for this pan, so we're going to have to do some cutting. But this is the way the dough looks in its uncooked form, and this is how you're going to layer it into your pan. And I think this is probably what the beauty of the entire recipe is that you don't have any messy pots, you don't have to boil water, and you're not picking out these lasagna noodles and scalding your fingers at the same time. So what I want you to do first is make sure you have one big large pan, because if you're anything like my family, this is about what you're going to need for a good night's dinner. If you have a smaller family and you really feel you can't use this much, don't worry about it. You can do one of 2 things. A, you can cut the recipe in half and make half this size. Or you can get 2 smaller pans and get 2 recipes of this. Bake them both off, but bake the second one off for a little less period of time than you would of the first. Cool it down, put it in the freezer, and when you're ready to use it, defrost it, and then you can refinish baking it when you're ready for its use again. That way you've gone through the trouble once, but you're getting 2 good dinners out of it. This will give you 24 pieces. The other way will give you 24 pieces, but in 2 different versions. It's entirely up to you. We're going to go ahead and make this big one, and we sprayed this pan with a non-stick spray. And we're going to take some of our homemade tomato sauce. We're going to spread it along the bottom of this pan. And I'll tell you, the best way to do this effectively is to shake it. And you'll get all of the tomato sauce exactly where you want it, covering the bottom of the pan. And that was 2 ladles. Now, I want you to figure where you're going to put the first noodle and lay it right in the pan on top of the sauce, uncooked. Then what you're going to do is you're going to cut that, and you're going to take the other piece and do the same thing. Isn't that nice the way that fits right in the bottom of the pan? 2 pieces. And if you want, you can patch right over here with another piece. Okay? Now what I want you to do is start layering all the cheeses on top of these noodles. Then what you're going to do is you're going to put some of the ham down, some of the spinach down, and then you're going to spread tomato sauce generously on top of that. Then we're going to do noodles again, and we're going to repeat the procedure. So it's easier to start with the ricotta and the nutmeg and the salt and the pepper and the basil mixture. Remember that? We made that at the beginning. On top of the noodles. And I want you to be careful using about half of this mixture. You're going to have to get some kind of a flexible spatula and spread it as much as you can. All right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the rest of the cheeses and spread them on top. But this is probably, of everything we do, the trickiest part of this whole recipe, because you just want to make sure that you get all this wonderful cheese mixture to the end of the pan so that the guy that gets the corner piece is going to go ahead and get some of the cheese too. So bear with me, because this is going to take a little bit of manipulation and a lot of concentration. All right. We've gone ahead and we've done that, and now you're going to play that little pizza maker and take your mozzarella and give it a good generous dose. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to break into an Italian song right now, and I've been known to do it, so I'm going to do everything I can to contain myself. Okay, here we go. I'd say you've got about between a third and a fourth of this mozzarella cheese. And now I'm going to take some of my grated Parmesan and sprinkle that on top. All right, now I'm ready for the spinach and the ham, but I'm going to put the ham here and the spinach here. And I'll tell you, it doesn't really matter which way you do it. If you want to put the spinach down because you think it's going to be a little easier to layer the sauce on top of the ham, then go for it. Use half of the spinach in doing this and just crumble it around. And just like we did with our ricotta cheese, I want you to try to get it as much to the ends of the pan as you do in the middle. The other thing that I want you to remember is that this is going to be repeated twice, so that when you ultimately bake this wonderful concoction, you're going to then cut into it and see all the different layers. You're going to see the tomato sauce, you're going to see the pasta noodle, you're going to see the cheeses, and you're going to see the ham and the spinach. And it's really visually as well as tasting absolutely one of the nicest looking and tasting lasagnas that you could possibly ever bite into. All righty, now do you see how I have that covered? Go with the ham next and just lay it on top. If you don't like this kind of ham, or you have something you'd like to use better, or you want to eliminate it, you can. Some people might want to keep to their old ground beef at this point in time. It's up to you. I like this because it's different, and when people cut into it, it's not what they expect. And I always like to surprise my customers, my clients, or my family, even myself. So I'm going to go ahead and finish one half of that. And then I'm ready for another, this time, very generous layer of tomato sauce. As you can see, we slice our ham very thin. So when you go to the deli or to the butcher and you want this ham cut for this, you make sure you tell him, I want it wafer thin. Not chipped, but wafer thin. All right, kids. On with the rest of the tomato sauce. Well, actually not the rest, but most of it at this point in time. I'm going to spread that all around. Get a real nice incorporation, saving a little bit for the top layer. And you can take that spatula again, this time smoothing it on that way because you have too much in the pan to be tilting it. Alrighty. I'm going to throw a little bit of Parmesan cheese on too. Why not? How you put it together is going to be your own business. How it's going to taste, well, that's another story. Now that we've had all our sauce on here, we're going to start with our second layering of our fresh pasta dough. And this time it's going to take probably 3 strips. So I'm going to go ahead and start layering the dough right on top, keeping in mind that this time I'm going to need more of the dough. And I'm always cutting and fitting. And you see these pieces right here that we had left over from before? Go ahead and use them up because no one's going to know the difference. And here we go. We have another piece. We'll lay that right in there. And we'll cut that to fit. And we're going to start again with our cheeses. And this time we're going to use the ricotta like we did the last time, directly on top of the pasta dough. And this time, kids, we're going to go ahead and use all of the ricotta cheese. And it's going to be a little easier to spread because when we're putting it on top of our pasta dough, it has more of an anchor than it did before. When we originally did it, the only anchor was a few tablespoons of tomato sauce in the bottom of the pan, and it was harder to spread. As you can see, that's not the case at all. You might be wondering why we have the eggs incorporated in our ricotta cheese. That helps to bind it so that when it cooks, it holds together just a little bit better. And when you slice it, you'll have a lot more luck and it won't fall apart on the plate. Lasagna is always easier to bake off and let it rest before you slice it. That's if you can wait that long. Some people like to make their lasagna the day before and then get it good and cold and slice it and then reheat it. Serving it's certainly going to be a lot easier. Alrighty, now I'm going to go ahead and add a lot more of my grated mozzarella. And this time, what I'd like to do is leave enough of the mozzarella so that I have a generous portion for the top. So I guess I'm pretty much cutting this into thirds for those of you that are keeping track on the count. A little bit more of the grated Parmesan cheese. And then we're going to do the rest of our spinach and ham and then our final pieces of dough. And we're going to top that with our tomato sauce. So, oops, I'm sorry. I told you to do it this way and I did it the other way. Here we go. I love the way the red, white, and green look. Almost like an Italian flag. Maybe that's why I like this so much. All right, we're just about ready here now for that ham. And working quickly because I'm getting hungry, I'm just going to lay all of this on there as evenly as possible. That one doesn't want to come apart, but okay, there it goes. And finish up our ham. You know, if any of you have any questions on any of this, you're going to be able to send away for the recipes, and they're very, very good and self-explanatory in themselves. And you can remember what you saw here today and put it together, and you'll find that it's going to come together like 1, 2, 3 for you, like you've been making it for years and years and years. Press it down just a little bit at this point, if you will. And add a little bit of the sauce. Just a little bit. And a little bit more of that grated Parmesan cheese. The reason I want to have sauce underneath my noodles every time is because it's going to make the noodle even more moist, and it won't ever get too brittle or dry. Now we're going to go ahead and put that final layer of pasta down. Taking it all the way to the edge. Nice sharp knife is going to help. Tuck it down just a little bit. Remember, we cut 4 pieces of pasta, so we're going to have 4 long pieces of dough. And this time I'm going to overlap it just a tiny bit. Take my last piece here. And some of you may have some good recipe for sugaring this dough and frying it for the kids. Maybe your grandmother or your mother used to do for you, or an aunt. I know we used to have that and it was delicious. Tuck that down. Go ahead with the rest of the sauce. All over the top. Probably weren't going to believe in the beginning of the show that I was going to use all 8 cups of the sauce. But as you can see, every ounce of this sauce was important to the recipe, as was all that pasta dough. Just lay that around, trying to cover as much as you can of your dough. And now we have our 2 cheeses left. Our mozzarella, which is going to finish it with the Parmesan, and then it's going to go into a 350-degree oven for approximately 1 hour, or until it is set, it comes together, and it's wonderfully bubbly and golden brown. 3 pounds of mozzarella, gang, and it's all used up, every last bit. And I was even a good girl and didn't taste any of it while I was assembling it. I could only invite all of you to come here and have some. I think that would make it complete. Okay, here we go. Grated cheese. And we're going to pop this in the oven and cut you a piece that you can watch. And then when you're done watching and you're hungry enough, you're going to run out of here and you're going to make your own right away. All right, 50 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever it took, it elapsed at 350 degrees, and this is our finished product. And now what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to drive you absolutely crazy, and I'm going to cut a piece of this and show you what it looks like. Then all you have to do is turn off the TV, jump in the car, run to the supermarket, get the ingredients, and in about an hour's time you'll have the same product. We've cut it out of the pan, and as you can see, we have all these wonderful layers. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, gang, buon appetito. And I'll see you the next time. Ciao from Raina's. Hope we do something special again real soon. Bye-bye.